Hey community, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Pemi and I'm so glad you are here doing life with me. To talk about something that I find very interesting. There's a concept in psychology called naive realism, and naive realism is basically believing that the way you see the world is the way the world is, and also believing that other people see the world the way you do. So this naivety, or the sense of naive realism, also brings you to the belief that those with a different view of the world are wrong. This is where a lot of biases form. This is where a lot of conflicts form as well, because sometimes when you feel very strongly about something or have a belief that you are so certain is right, regardless of evidence, regardless of what the facts show, you believe what you believe, and that leads to not being able to, one, be open to new information, but two, it also kind of puts you in a space where you're not tolerable of other people's views, you're not tolerable of other people's beliefs. I remember my partner once said something to me and it has really stuck with me. He said to me, whatever you post online, no matter how positive it is, no matter how positive it is, no matter how factually correct it may be, there is somebody out there who will just disagree, and they will think they're right because that's what they believe. And that is naive realism. It's believing that your beliefs surpass the beliefs of others because you think your belief is right, because how you see the world is right. Now, obviously, every single one of us like to think that we're open-minded and, we don't do this. We don't think the way we see the world is the way the world is. But if you're actually honest and you take a step back and you think about it, most of us think how we see the world is how the world is because that's the only perception we have. We can only believe our perception is reality because that's all we have. That's why the saying, your perception is your reality, is so true, because your perception of reality is exactly what reality is for you. A lot of speakers, coaches, therapists, and just people in general speak about how we perceive the world and what we say about our world, because what we believe is what we will experience. And I don't want to minimize the experiences of oppressed minorities. I'm a black woman, so I am not tone deaf, and I'm definitely not blind to injustices in society. I'm not saying that just I can believe my way out of oppression. No, I can definitely still have to deal with systematic oppression, but that does not mean that's how I will be defining my life. That does not mean that when I think of myself as an oppressed person. That's not in my frame of reference. That's not how I start my story, and that's not how I go out into the world. I go out into the world as Pemi. I go out into the world as a talented, intelligent, beautiful black woman. I don't go out into the world with the limitations the world wants to put on me, and that's where the power of perception comes into play. So I just wanted to clear that out because I didn't want anyone thinking that I'm gonna minimize experiences. No. So the issue with naive realism is it's very polarizing. You either believe that you're right and everyone else is wrong, and you stay on your little island and you want other people to either get onto your island or to just float away. But if we want to be one socially conscious people, then we can't live like that. We have to be aware in every single circumstance. We need to know that, okay, the way I am viewing the situation might not be it's the true reflection of the situation. I may not be seeing the whole picture, and that's why we need to, get other perspectives, hear other opinions, listen to people, share, engage, and even sometimes just like take a step back. I love that, recently a lot of people have been talking about like being able to change your mind. I absolutely love people who are smart enough, brave enough, and just like who aren't so caught up in their own ego that they can't say, oh, I didn't look at it like that. That makes more sense. When I think of myself, growing up, I attached a lot of my value to things like my academic performance, being smart, being able to hold my own in any conversation, which meant I had to like really know a lot about a lot of things because I was so afraid of not knowing. Like saying I don't know felt as though it was a jab to my self-worth. And I also had this, and it's false, of course, but a lot of my identity was definitely wrapped up in being someone who was well informed and like a student. I'm a huge nerd. but what I've learned is intelligence and being well informed, they all come from being able to be a critical thinker. And critical thinking, one of the basis of critical thinking is being able to hear opposing views. You cannot be a critical thinker if you cannot entertain or listen to or hold space for views that oppose your own. So that was a huge thing for me to learn. I had to learn one, to get comfortable with being wrong. When you're just like, why didn't I think of that? I used to feel I would cringe so much when like I'm wrong about something. But growing up and loving myself more taught me that I don't need to know everything. That's not where my self-worth lies. That's not where my beauty lies. That's not where my my authenticity lies. That's not where my gifts lie. Knowing everything is no one's job, just God's. And experiencing as much as I can, that's my job. Learning as much as I can, that's my job. And being open as much as I can is my job. So for me, I think it's so important for us to learn that how we see the world is not how the world is. Our perception is our reality. It's not reality. And if you want to get a different view of the world, listen to other people. And listen to people with opposing views from you. You can learn something, you can expand. And also another important thing that I just want to share is two things can be true at the same time. 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't have to live in a world that's black and white, because unfortunately, fortunately, the world isn't that way. Two things can be true at the same time. People are complex, emotions are fluid, life changes, people change, situations are tricky. We need to have room for that. especially in relationships, this is an area where a lot of the times there are so many things that are true at the same time, but when emotions get involved, especially hurt and anger and pain, we want our perspective and our truth to be the only truth, and that's all we will see. We tunnel vision our beliefs, and that's not how we actually solve conflict, and also that's not how we create bridges to understand each other better. You know, sometimes a friend can hurt you deeply, and your pain is real and it's valid. However you feel is real and valid, and even in all of that, there is still another story. There is still another reality, another perception, that once you are at a place to hold space to be able to see it, you will then be able to get a better scope of what the whole picture is, because we don't have the whole picture. We will never ever have the whole picture. As long as there are plus 7 billion people on this planet, there are plus 7 billion realities. Ours is just one of them. And the gift of life is being able to experience our world in so many different ways, and we only do that by allowing ourselves to step in somebody else's shoes. Enter empathy. Empathy is perhaps one of my favorite emotions, because empathy is the cornerstone of connection. Being able to restore connections, being able to create connections, relies so heavily on being able to move away from our perspective and put ourselves in someone else's shoes and see it from their perspective and connect with them from their point of perception. And also, empathy allows us to really see someone. You know, when you allow yourself to just not be so in your own head, you get to really see someone. Empathy is not absorbing someone else's emotions. That's not empathy. It is merely being able to hold the perspective of another. And of course, we can't divorce ourselves of our own biases and all of that, but we can, for a moment, feel what someone else is feeling so that we can better navigate. Our reality is our reality, but it's not the reality. How you see the world is how your world is. It's not how the world is. If you want to be a person that is more connected, then connect with people. If you want to be a person that is more loving and loved, then love people. If you want to have more joy in your life and in all your experiences, you have to cultivate it by giving it. So that's all I wanted to say. I hope that this video has been informative. I hope you learned something, and I hope that moving forward you will be able to really, especially in the heat of the moment, you'll be able to stop and ask yourself, what is part of the picture here that I'm not seeing? And may that be the starting block of you learning to see the world through someone else's lens. And I hope that will enrich your experience. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been informative. I hope you learned something that you can apply in your life today. And most importantly, I hope it makes you a better you. And that's it. Oh yes, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. My name is Pemi. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Pemi Sekwe. And with that, bye-bye.